Hi, everybody. It is Tuesday, and you are in the kitchen cooking with Evie. So today I'm so excited because I have a group that I am working with. This is a 5-day challenge, Healthy for the Holidays 5-day challenge. And this is one of the dishes that we are all making together. It is slated for Thursday, but I thought I'd make it today because it's always nice to have foods made ahead of time. So when you have the time, you can make them and have them ready when you don't. So we're pulling the recipe from our recipe book here, and it is on the last page, I believe. And if anybody has questions, I can answer in the chat box there, and hopefully it'll help you, and hopefully I have some tips here that'll help you get out of the kitchen even quicker. Okay, and today we are going to be making chicken thighs with rutabaga and carrot mash. And if you have not cooked with rutabaga before, I highly encourage you to do so. It is a root vegetable that's very, very healthy for us. And I'll get into that a little bit more as we are prepping that rutabaga for the mash. First, what I'd like to do is get my chicken ready. So I've already taken out all of my ingredients, right? Chicken's still in the refrigerator, so I'll go grab that. I didn't want to leave that out too long. But one thing about cooking efficiently is have your ingredients ready, make sure you have them all. Preheat your oven if you need to, which we have done. And I'm going to grab into the refrigerator here and take out my chicken. So the recipe calls for chicken thighs with skin on. I inadvertently bought with skin off, but I've made this recipe before with both, and they both taste delicious, whether you have the skin on or skin off. So I washed my chicken, and I just had it sitting ready to be prepped. So let me grab a baking dish. I've preset the oven to 425 degrees. I have a baking dish. Now, I like to line it with a Silpat, which is a silicone pad here. These are so handy when it comes to baking and cooking. But you can also use a piece of parchment as well. So I'm going to take my pieces. I like to roll, so the chicken, this is a boneless chicken, so I like to roll it into a little roll like this because I find that it cooks more evenly. It's a little bit thicker, and then you don't have like little thin edges that don't cook evenly with the rest of the plate, rest of the dish. So I'm going to put them into my plate here, and very simply, we are just going to coat this with some Italian seasoning. All right. I have a little bit more chicken here than what the recipe calls for. I will be doing the single recipe here. Oh, my oven's up to temperature. I will be doing the single recipe here, but I actually have about a pound of chicken. So I'm going to add in a little bit more of my seasoning. What's nice about this recipe, and when you're cooking for yourself, as I keep telling everyone, is that you can add in, when it comes to spices, you can add in to your taste. So the recipe here calls for about a teaspoon of seasoning, and that would be for about 3 or 4 of these thighs. But I'm going to just dust them, coat them with the seasoning so that I can see that they're nicely evenly coated, and I'll show you what this looks like in a second. But I tend to like a lot of flavor, and as we know, spices add nutrients. They're anti-inflammatory. They are antioxidative. So depending on the spices that you're using, they have different benefits for the body. So always add in spices when you can. Let me add in a little bit of sea salt. So I have some Himalayan pink sea salt here, and I'm just going to put, maybe about about a half teaspoon over it. I'm just kind of doing a little pinch and sprinkling it over. All right, let me show you what this looks like. And just bring it up close so you can see it. Look at that. All right, here we go. Those are our chicken breasts. All right. So, my chicken is now ready. It is ready to go. I'm going to put this in the oven and set the timer. Now, these are not large chicken thighs, so I'm going to put them in. The recipe calls for about 30 minutes. I'm going to put them in for 25 just to see. Now, if you have bone in, it's going to take a little bit longer. You might want more closer to 35 or 40 minutes. And depending on the sizes of your chicken, you may have to make some adjustments accordingly. I'm going to put mine in for 25 minutes. So let's put the timer on and get that going. Very good. All right, so that's going. Now, typically, if you're doing a cooking program with me, this is the way I do things. So hopefully you'll join me later on in an upcoming January program that I have, which we'll be cooking all together through Zoom. You'll have all the ingredients, I will, and we'll cook all together for a week's worth of healthy anti-inflammatory dishes. All right, so let's get back to this recipe though, right? So now that my chicken is in, I can now look to prepping my vegetables. What I like about this recipe is that it's very simple. You've got your protein, you've got your vegetables. I will probably serve this with a salad on the side to get in some more green leafy vegetables and other healthy vegetables as well. So this is what a rutabaga looks like. I want about 2 cups of chopped rutabaga. This is probably going to make about maybe 2 to 3 cups. You'll find that rutabagas are covered in a waxy covering. We want to take that off. We don't want that in our dish. So I'm just cutting off the top and the bottom here. You can see it's kind of a tough, hard root vegetable. And I'm just going to take my peeler and peel down, and you're going to see that what comes off is the purple, which is unfortunate because the purple actually indicates that there are phytonutrients that are present that I'm actually taking off with the peeler. But because the wax is on, and I don't know, I don't want that in my dish, I need to remove it. And that means I need to remove the coloring, those antioxidants, the phytonutrients that are present from the surface. And coincidentally, most of the nutrition in our vitamins and, in our vegetables and fruits are found in that outer covering of the vegetable. Why? Because these phytonutrients that protect us are actually there to protect the vegetable. And it needs more protection, right, on the outside of that root, in this case, or the vegetable or the fruit, than it does on the inside. Which is not to say that they aren't present on the inside, but just a little FYI tip. Something to talk about while I'm peeling a rutabaga. Rutabagas in and of themselves, very high in fiber. I always talk about the importance of fiber in my programs because fiber helps slow down the absorption of sugars in our foods, keeps our sugar levels balanced, helps fight inflammation, keeps our energy levels even and consistent. So we always want to be adding in as much healthy fiber as we can. All right, hold on a second. This is going to make a noise. Yes, that's a strong root. But you can see how pretty the colors are in that. High in fiber, high in vitamin C. Excellent, especially during the winter. when we really want to stay healthy. Vitamin C is so good for our immune system. Hey there, Roger. I see. Roger says, I never wash my chicken. Does it matter? I would wash it. You know what? We don't know what kind of contaminants there are or what they've been rinsed with or whatever. I always rinse my chicken beforehand. So I would advise yes, especially if it's conventional and not organic, because we don't know what the environment, the regulations of the environments are, of the facilities are different than organic. So yes, I would really, really prefer if everybody did do a little even if it's just a rinse of I do it with produce as well. Even if it's organic, I will, although I will say that for things, say like organic carrots, I will actually just scrub it with a scrubber. I have a dedicated scrubber to do that. Today I'm going to peel it just because when I mash it, it's just cleaner looking. But you don't have to. If it's organic, just a simple rinse will suffice. So I am now, as I'm talking here, I cut my rutabaga along lengthwise here. So here's the half. I just cut it down this way. And then I'm going to take those kind of French fry shapes, turn them sideways, and cut them into cubes. So Paula, okay, yes, I have never had rutabaga. Oh, congratulations. This is good. We're introducing you to new foods. So it's always good to try new foods. I talk about the importance of variety, right? Variety because, why? Because remember I was talking about the importance of the color. All different fruits and vegetables have different phytonutrients. They have different vitamins and minerals to give us. And we want to, even if it's, say, carrots, a purple carrot has different nutrients than a yellow carrot or an orange carrot. So variety. A yellow pepper has different nutrients than a green pepper. All right, so my goal here is to chop up about 2 cups of rutabaga. Now, this was a good-sized rutabaga. Some of them can be really big. Depends on how big of a rutabaga you end up buying. I have just about 2 cups here with 1/2 cup. You know, if you have a little bit more, that's not bad. My opinion, the more vegetables, the better it is, right? Yes, and Paula's saying that she likes cabbage and turnips. You will love this. It actually has like a kind of a sweet flavor to it. And then when you add the carrots to it, it gets very sweet. So we've got this, our rutabaga now, very high in vitamin C. Now I'm adding the carrots, very high in beta carotene, which converts into vitamin A in our body. So very good for the skin, hair, I think hair, I have to check that one. I said the skin and eyes. So very protective of the eyes. So as I said, I'm peeling these and I will save these. I did wash these carrots, they're organic. I'm going to save the peels to put into when I make a broth. So what I do is I just freeze them, and when I have a bag full of ends, my carrots, my onions, my peppers, celery, all of that, I use it to make up a soup. So I'm just going to put these aside now, and I will put that in my bag for later on. So let me just tilt my camera down a little bit so you can see a little bit better about what's going on here. All right. I'm just reading some of the comments here. I remember my Uncle Dick showing me one in his garden, but I didn't remember having them cooked. Yeah, you know what? You can actually have them raw. Uh, they they have a very good flavor. It's a little bit stronger when they're raw, but you can eat them raw, just like you can eat carrots raw or cooked. So I have my 2 cups of rutabaga chopped. I'm now going. I took the recipe calls for 2 medium carrots. I'm taking 3, just because I like carrots. But to show you too that it's not as important the exact amount. If you're baking, you really do need to measure out your ingredients. With something like this, the proportion is more based on your taste. You can start with how the recipe says, and then if you decide, oh, well, you know, I really wanted more carrots in that, you can add more carrots. These were fairly decent sized carrots, but sometimes you have a larger carrot or a smaller carrot, so you need to kind of adapt your recipe to that. So I probably have, let's see, a little bit less in proportion. I would say, you know, maybe about 3/4 to 2/3 carrots to 1 measure of the rutabaga. Yeah, it's oh, about 1 1 1/3, 1.5 cups to 2 cups, a little bit more than 2 cups. Okay, now I have these chopped up. What do I do with them, right? I'm going to put them into, I have a pot on the stove here. It's just a saucepan with about 1 inch of water in the bottom. If you have a steaming rack, okay, these are ingenious little inventions that can fit into any pot, right, because it will collapse to the size. I'm going to put that in, and that allows the vegetables to sit above the water. We're going to steam these for about 15 minutes. We want the water to be boiling, and it is. I'm going to add that in, and I'm going to add in my vegetables, my chopped vegetables. Now, very important here, you want to make sure that your lid is a nice, tight fit, because you don't want the steam to escape. You want the steam to cook the vegetables, and if the lid is not fitting tightly, the water may boil off on you. So, I have that now on the stove. I have just about 14 minutes left on my chicken, which is going to be the perfect amount of time for me to cook those veggies and check them. What you want at the end is to have them fork tender. So I want my fork to just kind of slide in and very easily prick the vegetables when they're done. The reason being is we want to puree these. So let me just clean off my space here a little bit. And I actually steamed some of these beforehand this morning. So I have my vegetables already made. Now you can see a little change in color there. But importantly, they are fork tender, nice and soft. Now, if you don't have a steamer, don't worry. You can put your vegetables into your saucepan with a little bit of water, maybe like half inch, maybe to 1 inch of water, and you can cook them that way. The bottom pieces might get a little bit mushier than the top, but really that's okay. You'll be fine. You might, if you're cooking them that way, well, I would just say do it that way, and you might want to just check them at maybe the 13-minute point, like a little bit earlier, just to see how they're doing. Maybe give it a stir and then close it up real tight quickly, okay? So, let's see. Let's go. So we now have our vegetables, and I'm ready to puree them. If you have a potato masher to make mashed potatoes, you can use that on these. If you do that, it'll be a little bit chunkier. Your puree, your mash will be a little chunkier. If, however, you would like it smooth, and I do kind of like mine creamy, so you can grab your either mixer, a blender, or a food processor. And I'm just using a regular blade here. I'm just going to add that in. To my container here. Let me just move this out of the way for a second. All right, so I've added this in now, and I want to add a little bit of liquid. Now, I'm going to add in some canned coconut milk. If you don't have canned coconut milk, or you don't want to use coconut milk for whatever reason, you can use the water that you cooked your vegetables in, because it has nice flavor. Not only that, but sometimes when you do steam or cook your veggies, some of the nutrients leach out into the water. So that way you're putting back in some of the nutrients. I'm going to add in some coconut milk. I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons, which is about 1/8 of a cup of liquid. Let me just grab my little pot, my little measuring pot. And this is a 1/4 cup. I'm just going to add in half of that into my container. That makes it nice and creamy and adds a little bit of a different flavor profile to it. I'm also going to add in, maybe about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to add in a little pepper. I didn't add that into the recipe, but I have found that I like a little bit of pepper in there. So probably less than 1/8. There's a pinch of pepper in there. So, that's it. Let's give it a pulse. What's nice about this is if during the holidays you're trying to control those sugar cravings, you're trying to get away from the added sugar dishes that we're eating, this has a nice sweetness all on its own, without the addition of any kind of processed sugars. I'm just going to scrape down the sides of my bowl. Here, let me show you. Okay, so this was the first pulsing. Now, you may decide that you like your mash at this consistency. Then stop, right? If for some reason you're finding that your vegetables are a little bit dry, by all means, feel free to add in either more of the coconut milk or more of those pan drippings or from the cooking of the vegetables. I apologize for the noise. So as I said, if we were doing a cooking program together where we cook together, you'd be having this for dinner tonight. All right. I'm actually going to add in a little bit more. Now, typically, if I wasn't already cooking something in the pot right there, I would add some of that pot liquor into the mix. But I'm going to add in a little bit more of my coconut milk. I think I'm almost there. I'm going to give it one more pulse. think this is a nice creamy consistency. Let me show you what we've got here. It still has a little bit of lumps in. If you would like, you could continue to pulse it. I find that this is just right. And what I'm going to do is now, first of all, I'm just going to move my food processor out of the way. And I'm going to store it in a container and just put it in the refrigerator for tonight. Actually, I have other chicken cooked, so I will probably save this for Thursday night, which is on the program. That's what we had planned. So I might just do that. Now, what I made here, the amount that I made is the amount for 2 people for 1 meal. There is more than enough here. And in fact, in the past, I've had leftovers, which I have enjoyed, you know, the next day. It's so good, though. It's so much fun just to have a side dish that you can add to another meal. But it's nice, it's smooth, it's creamy. It makes a great addition next to, here's how it looks. Next to the, I'm just going to taste a little bit. Oh, yum. It's so sweet. It's delicious. I hope you get to try this. I'm going to store mine in the refrigerator. Now, typically, if I was plating this up, let's get this out of the way so I don't knock it. I would put a little bit of dill on top. So typically, if I was plating this, and because my chicken hasn't finished cooking yet, it still has another, well, it has another 4 minutes to it, but we'll see. We'll see how things go. But what I would do is I plate it. I like to nestle the chicken on top, and then I would just take a little bit of fresh dill and tear it on top. Or, pardon me, if you don't have the fresh dill, you can just always use dried dill and sprinkle that on top. Pardon me. Let me just get a sip of water here. Too much talking. Too much talking and not enough eating, right? So, I hope you get a chance to try this dish. I think it shows just how easy it is to make a quick, simple meal in under a half hour. And then you're ready to go. And not only that, but if it's, you know, if you double it up, you have enough for another meal another time. All right, I'm going to wait for my chicken to come out of the oven. And when that happens, I will also put that in a container, let it cool a little bit, and put it into the refrigerator. And then I can just reheat it for tonight, or for Thursday night, as I said. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the cooking class. Hope this helped. I hope you get to try a rutabaga. If you liked what you're seeing here, these types of recipes, please like, share, subscribe, spread the word. That is my mission, to spread the news of good whole food cooking that gets away from processed foods. And to keep an eye out for my program that will be in January, where we all get to cook together, and you'll have a week's worth of healthy whole food recipes, menus, meals by the end of the cooking program. Okay? I will see you soon. Take care for now. Bye-bye.